All right, you guys, so this video is going to be about fasting. So if you are someone that you're drawn towards the idea of fasting, the spiritual practice that fasting is, you've never done it and you would like to try, and you are maybe looking for some research, maybe you've been thinking about this, and if you found this video, it may be your sign. So I'm gonna walk you through 5 points that I've written down based as well on my questions, because I've been doing fast recently and I've been sharing this on my stories, and there's been some questions. I've done multiple fasts, and if you want to explore this topic further, I've also have a playlist on my YouTube that is called Fasting, and I store all my videos. There are just a few videos in there around fasting. So today we're just going to cover some points that you need to consider when you want to prepare, when you're in process of taking that decision, and then final points for how to break your fast as you're already fasting. So sort of a one-on-one, fasting one-on-one. So my first point, and a very important thing, is that fasting is a spiritual practice. And what I'm going to be talking about is fasting in that context as a spiritual practice, which means that it serves to purge, to cleanse, to detox, to listen to your body better, to connect to your body deeper, to listen to the guidance from within, to go deeper, to sometimes you can have an offering, right? So sometimes you can do it in an intention of something that either you yourself want to achieve or power through, break through a pattern, a shadow, or towards community, humanity, collective. But there has to be an intention. So if you are thinking about fasting, my first question, and this is how I kind of want to walk you through. So if I ever gonna recommend fasting to any of my clients, instead of just doing this every single time, I can refer them to this video. So if we were sitting together, this is what I would say to you. If you want to do it, first thing, think about your intention. What is your intention? Do you want to cleanse and purge? Do you want to connect deeper to your body and detox your body? Do you want to go deeper within, around maybe topic of specific shadow? Do you want to maybe cleanse the mental fog to listen to the guidance within? Or do you have an intention for offering for either yourself or like I said, a collective? So point number 2 is understand and research, which means before you start to fast, it's good to find some reliable information on how it looks like. And as you look for that information, remember to look for that information in context of spirituality. I personally don't believe in fasting for any other reason, for dieting, for clearing your body, but not in context of that spirituality, but very sort of ego-based kind of a cleanse. It is a spiritual practice, and this is how we should approach it. And you should research that accordingly to really understand what it is, what benefit it brings, what it means. Understand also what's going to happen, right? So how it can look like. And it would really be a good thing to consult a spiritual teacher before, and sort of a preparing for that fast. If you already work with a spiritual teacher, it's great to have that conversation. If not, either, like I said, research for some spiritual teachers who have advice. Well, you finding this video, that's covering part of that step. So really to understand and collect information. And that moves us to the point number 3, which is prepare physically and mentally with all the information that you've collected. Really prepare, first of all, how long you're gonna fast for, right? So I've done multiple fasts. I've done 3 days, 5 days, 10 days, 14 days. 14 days were my longest fasts. And I always said, and I've mentioned this on my stories and in my previous video that I've posted to review specifically my recent fast. If someone is not really on a journey of either spirituality or deep inner work or deep self-discovery, stuff here and there, about self-improvement, self-work, but it's not really something that you fully dedicate yourself to, I would recommend start from 3 days. If you are on some sort of a journey, of spirituality, you can start from 5 days. First fast I've ever done, it was 5 days, but this is something that it would be good to consult with someone who's done fasting, who is that spiritual teacher, to walk you through that. I would never recommend to anyone to start from more than 5 days, right? To sort of prepare your body. And sometimes it may be good to say, it's always good to have a commitment, but if it's your first fast, you may say, I want to go for 5 days, but I'm allowing myself to stop at day number 3. If I don't feel like continuing after 3rd day, I will just break the fast. And I will consider it a success, right? Sometimes it's a good strategy. Another thing when you're preparing is to plan what type of fast are you going to do, because there are different types of fast. We can do a full water fast, which means that you drink nothing but water. It also excludes juices, teas, coffee, anything, just water. Then if you do that, it's good to know what you need to remember about in terms of how to take care of your body, to make sure that you're actually going to do it for the benefit, and you're just going to go through it in a healthy way. Then you can do a water fast, but including different fluids, liquids, like teas, like unsweetened and no milk coffee. And then you can do a juice fast, which is a fast as well. And in that preparation, I have 2 more points as you prepare for it. So number 1, next thing, so number 3 is think about spiritual practices that you will also do during that fast, because we're doing it for spiritual reasons. We have a spiritual intention, so we also want to introduce some spiritual practices. So whether that's morning breath work, if you do breath work and prolonged fast, it might be a little hard for you. Again, it's going to depend on your condition and where you are on your journey. But even if it's just a couple of deep breaths with that first glass of water or that first cup of tea, to think about that intention, contemplate on that intention, or maybe an evening meditation, maybe a guided meditation, maybe yoga nidra, maybe journaling, whatever resonates with your journey wherever you are. But it's good to have those spiritual practices. And I'm going to explain a little bit more in point number 4, but it's really beneficial. And final thing when we talk about preparation is to understand that fasting is really not about your body not eating. It's more mental. Anyone who fasted would tell you that, there's hunger here and there. Some people feel it more, some people feel it less. But fast, it's actually something that makes you realize how many things in our life depend on our monkey mind, that we don't really need certain things. We're over consuming, we're over guided by our fears, by our longings, by our lusts, by our needs, by our ego. But in reality, our body doesn't need these things. Our soul doesn't need these things, right? And it makes you realize that oftentimes for a very long time, most of my fast that I've done, hunger was the least of my problems, right? It's the mental fight, right? And it's the mental struggle. Oftentimes for me, it was a big thing, but it may not be necessarily for everyone, but to a certain degree it will be to everyone, that we build our life. Eating is part of culture, it's part of our lifestyle, it's part of our day. We have our routines, we do that breakfast and then we cook that dinner. So it's important to remember and prepare that will create a gap in my life, right? And you're going to have to manage that gap. And that sort of moves us to a point number 4, which is clear your calendar. And what I mean by that is, when you want to do fasting, even if it's going to be, you're going to start from those 3 days, let's say, right? You have to think through your lifestyle and you have to clear your calendar as much as possible. So for example, if you want to do 3 days and you're someone who you do have a Monday to Friday kind of a job, I would recommend starting on Friday, and then if your weekend is off, continue on your weekend. If you want to do a longer fast and you have a very demanding job, whether that's physically or mentally, I would suggest taking off or doing that around your leave, because you will be depleted. Your energy will be depleted. You will be very weak. One of the symptoms, again, I think I've went through the symptoms in my other video, so I don't want to go there specifically. But, again, hunger is the least of your problem. You can have headaches, you can have that, mental fog, you can think, which seems to be a little slower, but your brain is actually releasing. You can feel different temperature within your body. You can feel very weak. You can feel tired, yet you may struggle to sleep, right? So you have to remember that it is a sacrifice. It is a push to your body. Your body actually wants that. It's a beautiful detox and reprogram to our body, and our body appreciates that. But just like many things that our body can handle, we need to create environment for our body to be able to handle it. So you cannot push your body as you're fasting. And this is where I advise to ask for support. So first thing, if you have a family, or if you have close friends, to share with your closest people that this is what you decided, this is what you want to do, and ask for their support in every shape or form, right? So during those 3 or 4 days, I will be the one doing everything around the house, and you go ahead and rest, do your spiritual practices. I won't be eating around the house. It's also something that, is challenging. But if you really love your partner, what's 3 days to really try to eat in a different room, right? Or not cook something, maybe cook something for those 3 days. They don't necessarily have to prepare meals that are going to be smelling in an amazing way, right? And have food around the house. To also understand that if you have a spiritual teacher, you can inform your teacher as well and have that support. If you're regular in 2 sessions to a spiritual teacher, I'm sure they will be able to support you as well. What I don't necessarily recommend, if you are a regular, if you watch me regularly, you would know, I never recommend communities. Here's the thing, communities are a beautiful thing. Communities is something that we need to build to support each other mutually in certain things. But there are certain things on our journey, on our journey of life, that we need to go through on our own. Having support of others, but not doing it together. So I'll give you an example. So fast is one of these things. Another is, I always say this to my divine feminists on a twin flame journey, don't subscribe to any kind of communities, because when you go through something very difficult, it's great to have people that are not there with you, but will create that bubble of support for you, right? So that spouse that is not fasting, or partner that is not fasting, but they'll be there for you. That friend that is not fasting, but they will check on you. How are you feeling? Doing great job. I'm so proud of you, right? That spiritual teacher, that sense of community. But I would never recommend to do fasting with someone else or with a group of people, like the spiritual, let's do this, because it feels like it's going to support you, but first of all it takes you away from you, from your own inner voice. And then the biggest thing that we have in these days societies is the comparison. It's the plague of comparison. So someone's going to say, oh my god, I started having like almost psychic visions, and you're not going to experience that, right? Or someone's going to say, oh my god, I'm not hungry at all, and you're going to be hungry at, right? So it's just not my recommendation. So have that bubble, but don't do this with someone else, unless the only exception is if you have a partner. If you're in a partner, that you have a beautiful soul-based partnership, you live together, you decide to do this together, then it's a beautiful thing. But you can support each other in a different sense. And as you clear your calendar, remember that, as I said, this practice is to connect to your body, not to stretch your body. So really focus on having all the tools to do that, being present, not seeking for, not worrying. So you don't have to worry about things that you should do. Have someone to cover for you in those days, not necessarily just because you're not going to have the energy, but you're not supposed to be busy on those days, right? And sometimes, some people, when you already done multiple fasts, you can maybe assume that for first 3, 4, maybe even 5 days, you'll be able to, do certain things. Like I was doing my 3 days fast. I didn't cancel my sessions. And I continued to work, but I did cancel, anything afterwards. I didn't want to have any kind of plans. I knew that I prepared my house, and I'm not going to do any cleaning. I'm not going to do, right? I'm going to focus on the fasting. So this is exactly what I mean. If it's your first fast, I would even clear out everything, with the exception of that first 2 days, right? That you may be able to handle work and everything. It also going to depend what kind of job you have. Further along the way, it's just going to be different. And my final point is, how do you return to that fast, right? So how do you return to eating? The way there are a couple of tips that I have for you. Number one is, whatever kind of fast you're doing, even if it's just 3 days, it sounds like it's just 3 days. My belief is anyone can do 3 days. Anyone, right? It's just mental. It's a beautiful thing, especially for masculines, because it helps you to train your self-control. When self-control is extremely important for the masculines. We talk about this all the time here. But even if you do 3 days and it feels like nothing, you never know. Every fast is different, right? Every fast is different. So, for example, to give you my personal experience, when I was doing my 14 days, the first 5 days, I was feeling like, hey, okay. I was doing everything. I was feeling fine. I wasn't hungry. It was the mental thing already kicking in, right? And I started having troubles sleeping. But then now I was doing 3 days, and I was like in agony at day 2, mental agony, right? So, and I was feeling very weak on that 3rd day. So my recommendation would be to, if you live with someone, obviously you're going to have that person that will prepare a meal for you to break your fast with. If you live on your own, my recommendation would be pop something in the freezer. So fix yourself some soup, or even buy, if you're doing like 3 days, it's going to be good in the freezer, or even if you're doing 14, you can pop it in the freezer. Get yourself like a nice, healthy, preferably homemade, beautiful, mild veggie soup, and pop that in the freezer. And once you're ready to break that fast, you can just grab that soup, and just think about that, or ask a friend. If you're doing like, let's say 14 days and you want to break your fast with something else and you're not going to have groceries, either order them online or ask a friend to bring you these groceries, because you may really be too weak to go to the store. And obviously we're not breaking fast with something that we order, right? So it's something worth considering. It took me a couple of fasts to figure it out. So I wanted to include that. And now I want to address what we break our fast with. So, This time I fasted for 3 days. So someone asked me, because I showed in my stories that I broke my fast with like this sourdough sandwich, which is my favorite breakfast, with some, scrambled eggs and some tomato. They said you should be breaking fast with fluids. Yes and no. So here's the yes. If you are doing your very first fast in your life, yes, your body's not used to those kind of experiences. You should do it mildly. My recommendation would be mild veggie soup, right? Homemade veggie soup. If you are doing prolonged fast so you've done shorter fast and it's your first prolonged fast as well, I would say break your fast with a veggie soup, or even a liquid, so like a veggie shake, or a smoothie, like a green juice, right? That sort of a thing. Something light, something mild. Many people as well, again, it's going to be very individual. Many people, when they do prolonged fast, so they do fast for 2 or 3 weeks, the next week would be liquids only. So let's say you want to do 2 weeks fast, some people will do third week returning to normality by drinking juices, smoothies, protein shakes, broths, and so on and so forth, and slowly introducing sort of meals back into your body. Ultimately, my advice, how I do it when I do shorter fasts, which is 3 to 5 days, I just have a normal meal, and I usually have the exact same breakfast. It's usually what I crave. It's my favorite breakfast, that sourdough bread sandwich, and that's what I eat. When I do prolonged fast, which is 10 and 14 days, then I break it with a veggie soup. I usually make myself like that mild minestrone with lots of veggies that are like softer on your stomach, some carrots, some potatoes, and I would have that. Me myself personally, when I was breaking my longest fast, it feels like you want to eat. It feels like you cannot wait. It feels like you are hungry at this point. But the moment you want to break it, and the moment I had a plate in front of me, I couldn't eat it. It was the eating itself was exhausting. I was so tired from my 14 days fast. So you just do it really slow. This is why I say you have to understand that you're going to need that time, right? So I remember that I tried to have that. I didn't want to have that soup, so I broke it with a banana. I was really like slowly eating that banana. And my biggest advice here, to be honest, right? Use a combination of your common sense with your intuition. Your body will tell you. The whole purpose of fasting is to connect deeper. That's the number one thing, is to connect deeper to your body, to listen to your body. Our bodies are extremely wise. Our bodies have the capacity to heal. The only reason that we are disimbalanced, that we are having physical and mental issue, is because we stand in the way. We store emotions that we refuse to let go of. We do things to our bodies that we overeat. We eat crap. We put literally poison to our body, which is alcohol, which is Botox, which is that kind of stuff, right? So our bodies have natural capacity and wisdom to heal and regenerate, but we stand in the way. So again, the objective of this practice is to connect deeper and learn to listen to your body. And as you listen to your body, that last day of fast, your body will slowly tell you, what do I want? This is why I said, it's good to have someone around you or a friend that will assist you with that, because you may just, wake up that day that you're going to break your fast and you thought that you're going to eat that soup, you pop that soup in your freezer, but you cannot, and you feel like having a banana. So again, listen to your intuition, but then with common sense. Obviously, for whatever reason, I don't feel like anyone who's really doing spiritual fast would suddenly want to break it with a pizza or a burger. You feel like you do because all you do is like you want everything. You want everything, even things that you don't normally eat as you're fasting. But a common sense, of course, we want something light, we want something fresh, we want something that is based on, you know, veggies and fruit. But whether it's gonna be, you know, we want healthy, just healthy, common sense, something light and healthy. But whether it's going to be that little piece of sour bread that you will crave, maybe with a little bit of salt, even nothing more, and then that banana, go for that. If you want that soup, go for that. If you want that, you know, green juice, and if you want to do a couple more days like you don't feel like eating, that's fine. Listen to your intuition, right? So again, balance between common sense and your intuition. I feel I've covered it all. I hope it was helpful. If you're really considering fasting, I would recommend for you to go to that YouTube and watch all the videos that I've done around fasting. I've done one that was part of my spiritual practices series, and then I've done another that was just a review of my 14 days fast. And yeah, if you have any questions, you can, you know, let me know in the comments. And yeah, good luck. It's a beautiful practice. I've covered this in my previous video, that it's a beautiful practice. I would absolutely recommend anyone who calls themselves spiritual, in my mind, has to at least one time do fast. Anyone who wants to really reach deeper and transform and do that deep inner work has to do that fast. But even if you're not in these categories, it's a really beautiful practice that I would challenge you and encourage you and invite you to consider, even if it's not just those 3 days, one time in your life, to give it a try.